I believe that there is a major deficit because we promote based on performance.
Yeah,
Now, don't get me wrong, you have to perform in any role. That is part of it. I don't want you to stop performing, but
right.
high performance does not automatically equal influence. It doesn't automatically mean that I'm aligned with the role. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have any quote unquote political intelligence. It doesn't mean that I'm a strategic thinker. It means that I did fantastic in this role, the previous role, performing. I knew how to survive, not necessarily thrive. And I was promoted to the next role. And so there's so many oh my gosh, Lisa Gillette. There's so many levels to that. But I'll just start there. We operate out of a survival mode. So I survived that last role. I can survive this role too. And that
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean I've transitioned into that role with a strategy and or alignment. And so it goes downward quite often from there.
Right. It's that state of hypervigilance where you don't really think, you react.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you said that true leadership is not about titles, and I so agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's about transformation. Um, Talk about transformative leadership, what it is, and why
Sure.
it's so needed at this time.
Sure. So when we talk, and this is my favorite way of putting it, I don't want to minimize the thought process here, but quite often we don't dig deep into conversations. And I love when someone says, explain this to me like I'm a 6 year old, right? Because you really want to go deeper. So
Yeah.
when we think about transformative transformation, that transformation has to be on the inside first. However, when I think about transformation, I automatically think about, listen, I was born in the 70s. In the 80s, we had the Transformers, right?
Oh, God, yes. Yes.
So we had the Transformers, Bumblebee, and so he transformed into this cool car and then into a transformer. My brother had the toys, I had the toys. So transformation literally is not just on the outside. You saw what
Right.
Bumblebee did on the outside.
Yeah.
Those core values, if you will, have to be refined. And as they are refined, that's when the transformation happens internally. And then we see it externally in our executive presence or in the behaviors that we display within the team, the department, the organization.
Right. You hit on a phrase that I think is really the underpinning of your work, which is core values.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so when you're talking about them, I don't know that many leaders today even consider that. Just
Mm-hmm.
talk to me about core values, how you help your clients understand what they are, and why
Sure.
they're so critical to use them really as our North Star.
Yeah. So, and I cover this pretty much with every single client I have. Your core values are really linked to that internal system, if you will, right?
Hmm.
It is the core, it is the nucleus of who you are.
Right.
And so, since that is your quote unquote North Star, when we begin to negotiate that value, it puts us in a place of misalignment. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to share an example.
Please,
I had a
please.
client recently. She couldn't understand why, when she first got the role, she loved it. Somewhere along the line, 8, 9, 10 months in, a year in, it slowly became a challenge for her. She
Hmm.
said, I loved it. I did it. And she was absolutely correct. She did love it. What happened was she remained steadfast in her core values, but those around her began to negotiate their core values and or their leadership values. And
Hmm.
because of that, it led into cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
So I had to explain to her, it's not necessarily you, it's that you still view this particular piece as disingenuous. It's misaligned with who you are. And since you view it that way, that doesn't necessarily mean your peers view it that way. They may negotiate to get exactly what they want, whereas you're not negotiating. And so sometimes you can't read the instructions inside of the bottle, hence the reason for a coach.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I hope that helped.
Yeah, that real it's so important and people don't talk about it. I think that's why we have such a break with so many
Mm-hmm.
leaders today because
Mm-hmm.
they're not aligned with their values.
Mm-hmm.
So this question that you and I touched on a little bit when we had